Over the past 6 years, I've sold north of $3 million in SMMA services. And I've sold in several industries, such as construction, aesthetics, dental, and even e-commerce. I've also done over 3,000 sales calls in my time. And I've condensed all that information into this short video between 20 and 30 minutes. This is literally everything that I've learned when it comes to sales condensed into one video. And whether you like it or not, as an entrepreneur, sales is absolutely essential. The phrase that, people are born with sales, in my opinion, is just simply untrue, and anybody can learn to sell. But if you're not willing to sit down and listen for the next 5 minutes or so, I'm afraid to tell you that you will not be successful. So with that in mind, if you are ready to sit down and listen to this training, get your notebook out, make sure you take notes because there's loads of information in here. And this video came from a longer 5-week course that you can get access to by joining my school group down below. So down below, I'll leave a link to my paid school community where you can get access to the full course, and also my free group where you can come in, learn a little bit more, and get access to some free resources as well if you want to. But otherwise, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed it, and we're going to get straight into the training. But this video is an overall look into sales and my overall strategy, so we're going to go through this. But before we do, just a little kind of introduction. So firstly, why listen to me? So just kind of some facts about myself. I've sold over $3 million of agency services in my time. I've sold retainers and fees and performance deals of upwards of 10,000 per month. I've sold in 10 plus sectors. So yeah, reasonably credible. And I wasn't a born salesperson. Like, I don't think I'm a naturally gifted salesperson. These are all learned skills and learned abilities that I've just trained into myself. So don't need to think that sales is something you're born with. I think anybody can sell, and hopefully this is going to help you understand that. So what's included in this video is going to be how to get somebody from interested to money exchange. That is ultimately what this is all about. This isn't a cold calling video. This isn't in fact, this is every part of sales. In fact, we kind of touch on everything. But this is effective to get somebody who, who's maybe interested or doesn't know about your product, to being ready and waiting to give you money. We're going to handle all of that in this video. My complete sales training from beginning to advanced, how to create a sales process around your strengths. We're going to talk about my processes and scripts, which again you can get access to later on in the training, how to handle objections like a pro, systems you're going to need, and the resources you're going to need is all covered in this training video. So who this course isn't for, this isn't for people who lack authenticity. If you're here for a quick cash grab, then this isn't for you. And this is also not for people with bad products. No matter how good your sales is, if you don't have a product to match, you are never going to succeed when it comes to sales and running your business. Okay, your product needs to be good and it needs to match your sales ability. So let's get straight into it. So there's 12 topics we're going to cover. I'm going to quickly run through these 12 and then we're going to get straight into it. So number 1 is the 3 steps to any sale. There's 3 steps to every sale. And if you do all of these 3 steps correct, you will never fail when it comes to closing a deal. Number 2 is value exchange, which is really, really important. We're going to go into detail about that. Number 3 is authenticity. Number 4 is find your style. Number 5 is selling the outcome. And we're going to elaborate on all of these elements. Number 6 is utilizing leverage, which is really, really important when it comes to sales. And number 7 is belief. Number 8 is relentlessness, and go for no, which is a concept I'm going to be discussing. Number 9, understanding and utilizing the 5 levels of market sophistication practically. There is another section on that inside of this training, but we're going to go into that in detail on this call. Number 10 is sales processes. So I've got a few different sales processes that I recommend depending on what product you are selling. Number 11 is how to take and process payments effectively so you're not left ghosted with an invoice sent. And number 12 is follow-up processes and my recommended follow-up processes. So let's get straight into it. So the first one is the 3 steps to any sale. Now there's 3 steps to every sale, no matter what you think about it, okay? And what most people do wrong is they go, here's my product, here's my service, here's its features, and would you like to buy? And that is the wrong way to approach sales, okay? I'm going to talk about why. So step 1 is identify who wants to buy your product. That is coming up with your customer avatar, okay? The best way of doing this, in my experience, and there's no real shortcut here, is to go and speak to these people. Whether you're working with gym owners, whether you're working with SaaS companies, whether you're working with, whatever it is you're working with, in my experience, the best thing is, or even if you're going direct to B2B, if you're working with homeowners, if you're working with people, you own a gym and you're trying to sell more memberships, go and speak to your customers and really understand what problems they're facing. A lot of the times people try to guess and they try to do their own research, when actually the best thing they could do is go and speak directly to them. What problems they have in their business, what keeps them up at night, what solutions have not worked for them in the past, and this is a really, really important one, and one that you cannot skip, is to understand what they've tried in the past and why it hasn't worked for them. Okay, go in detail about that, and usually these guys will speak openly to you and give you their honest thoughts on these topics. And it's kind of the old adage of like, sell me this pen, right? You've all seen the Wolf of Wall Street scene where at the end he goes, sell me this pen, and the guy goes, oh, well, it's a nice pen, it's got, multiple colors, and it's got a ballpoint, and it lasts forever, blah, blah, blah. But what you should have asked is, do you need this pen? Okay, it sounds simple, but if someone doesn't need your product, then there's no sales rep that can sell that product. And if you do sell that product and they don't need that product, then it just causes an issue later down the line. They resent you for selling them when they weren't ready to buy. So you should be asking, like, do you need this pen? If not, when are you going to need this pen? And if they don't need it, then you got to ask questions like, what is my product missing? Is it solving an active problem that they're having in the market? Step 2 is to understand your person you're selling to. Build a relationship with them, and they have to like you and you have to like them. This is really important. No one buys from people they don't like. Okay, it doesn't matter how good your product is, they just don't like you. You come across as slimy and as pushy, they're never going to buy from you. So most importantly, they have to like and they have to trust you. So you have to understand the person that you're selling to and have a connection with the person you're selling to. And then third, if you do both of these steps correctly, you've understood what they want, they like you, know you, and trust you. And by the way, understanding what they want is everything that comes into pricing the product effectively. Like, they have to want it and it has to be packaged in the right way, which we're going to talk about in this call. And step 3 is pitch your product. So if you understand your customer, your prospect likes you and trusts you, then as long as you have your product pricing right, they'll buy your products and service and there'll be no issues there whatsoever. So those are the 3 steps, so make sure you note that down and understand it. Number 2 is value exchange, and this is something I see people doing, never doing, in fact. And most people I speak to, and they say, oh, I've done 400 cold calls, and I say, yeah, but you're cold calling them and you're trying to pitch them a product there and then. Why not give them something of value? And we're going to talk about that now. To sell out a product or service, you need the perceived value of your service. It needs to be 10 times the perceived cost of your service, okay, on average or approximately. The absolute easiest way to prove this is something I like to call value exchange, and it's giving something to people with no expectation of return, okay? If you go and give a really great piece of value or something, whether that's a free service or something really valuable to 10, 20 or 50 companies, I promise you're going to end up with clients that like you, know you, trust you, and are willing to buy whatever you have to sell. If you're actively providing value to them, it's like me with this YouTube channel. Okay, I've got a paid school community people can join, but equally on my YouTube channel I give away as much stuff as I can for free, and really nothing is hidden. Like, I go through everything on that call, and then people can then purchase my school community on the back end of that after they've gained value. So that's how I've done that myself. And also, when competing with other agencies, companies or freelancers, by simply providing a form of value up front, you instantly stand out from the competition. And that value could be content on YouTube, that value could be an email list, that value could be a free website design. We're going to go into that. But always provide value with zero expectation of return. Don't provide value and say, hey, like, if this goes well, are we okay to sign a contract? No. The idea is, hey, I'd love to help you out for free. If you then want to buy my product, that's up to you, that's great, but there's no expectation of return from this value exchange. So it's not really a value exchange. It's a one-way exchange, and the exchange is you providing them value, and then the return is the clients that you're going to get in exchange for that. So here's some examples of value exchanges you can provide, and your level of value exchange will determine ultimately how enticing and ultimately how successful your product is. So you've got level easy, medium, and hard. So level easy is posting content online, okay? Of course, it's not easy, it takes a lot of time, but the barrier to entry is easy, right? Anyone can pick up a camera and start recording content, posting it online, launch a free newsletter, or run lead magnets, free downloads, free case studies, all of that kind of stuff. Easy, but it's better than nothing, okay? Now, at level medium is some examples I've got is a free website design mockup, or a 10 lead trial, or a free website audit, or a free SMS email remarketing campaign. Not too much work on your part, but it has a seemingly higher impact of value than these easy level ones do. Now, level hard is stuff that's really intense. So you don't necessarily need to do this, but for example, 5 pre-qualified leads for free, or 5 SEO articles written for free. These are obviously high-end ones, and if you're just starting out, you might want to go for something that's super intense and super high in value and takes a lot of your time, because it's going to help you get the ball rolling and build momentum with your client base. It's going to help you acquire clients quickly, and you've got all the time in the world, but at this point you don't have the money to invest in paid ads and all this stuff. So if you offer something crazy good for free, people are not going to say no. Think to yourself, if I was talking to a cold prospect on the phone, and obviously you can do this once you've nailed down what your value exchange is going to be, what could I offer them that would stop them from hanging up and make them go, ooh, that sounds interesting? So from them answering the phone, having an immediate standoff attitude to going, oh, that sounds interesting. I'm open to talking more about that. That once you figure what that is for your industry, that probably is the value exchange that you want to choose. Number 3, authenticity. Now, this is actually the opposite of the phrase fake it till you make it. Well, kind of anyway. Authenticity is about honesty. And this doesn't mean saying, it doesn't mean saying no to opportunities because you don't have a decade of experience doing it if you don't fully understand something. It's about being honest with people. So rather than saying, no, I can't do that, or yeah, I can do that and I can guarantee this, it's saying, hey, if you've seen my example, so instead of I can guarantee we can hit 30k when you can't, it's saying I can't guarantee that as lots of variables. What I can guarantee you is that I will do this, 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 and this. I guarantee that, and that will give us the best chance of success. People buy into authenticity, and people buy into people. And when you're starting out, there's nothing wrong with being honest and transparent. People saying, hey, I'm new to this market, but I'm willing to work for free and learn to get the ball rolling. I just want you to give me an opportunity. And then if it works out, we can talk about payment later. No one's going to, that's better than pretending you have a big company and a big team and saying we and doing this sort of stuff and pretending and faking it. You're always going to get found out in the end. So authenticity, really, really important. Now, 4, find your style. Now, the most common thing I hear is that, I'm not a natural salesperson, or extroverts are only good at sales. Well, that's not true. Anybody can be a good salesperson. And I always say, don't try to fit a square peg into a round hole. Don't try and adopt a sales process or a sales techniques that don't work for you. Everybody is different. And in my eyes, there's kind of 2 main ways of selling. And you can kind of adjust your product or your service to kind of fit to what works for you as a person. So for example, if you feel like you work better online, you're an operational kind of person, you are better at writing, you're better at being in the background, but you're really good at what you do, you might, a lower ticket, more simple service might work better for you. Let me tell you a story. I know somebody who's not the most extroverted person in the world, but has a really successful pay-per lead agency because his product is so simple to explain. He sells leads to companies, and he runs ads, generates the leads, and the margin between is the amount he makes. So he can approach a company and say, hey, why don't we test out 10 free leads? They're never going to say no. It's an easy way for him to get in with that company. It also covers his value exchange, and by the time because he's so good at what he does, it's always, more often than not, they come and buy more from him, and it's very transactional. So you've got consultative and we've got transactional. So transactional selling is simple short-term sales that focus on the product, and maybe like about price of the product. So going to the shop and ordering materials if you are a installer, or going to the shop and buying paracetamol or buying toilet paper in this instance. It's very transactional. There's no real sale involved. The product is there, the price is good, you buy the product. That is what we call transactional sales. Now, consultative sales is probably what most of you guys are used to. This is more complex, long-term process that involves collaboration between you and the buyer. And the customer often needs guidance to solve their problem. You don't typically advertise prices up front. This is typically how consultative selling works. So let me give 2 examples. One example of somebody who's a naturally born salesperson, they might not want to give any prices up front. They might want to do a long sales process, have a long sales call, build rapport with the person, and then pitch someone a product at the end. Whereas someone who's more, quiet and more contained in themselves and isn't expressive and isn't extroverted and introvert, you might say, might prefer to have a sales process which is a little bit more geared around, hey, we can generate you guys leads for this, why don't we try a trial of this many leads, see if it works, and go from there. It's less pressure, it's easier to deliver, and you can build your product around the way you like to sell and the way it works for you. I put here, so client buys leads from another provider for $50. You go and offer them leads for $40, therefore client is willing to make the switch. It's simple and not always going to work that way, but you kind of get the idea. And the most common myth I've said here, natural salespeople and others are not. I know extreme introverts that are great salespeople. It's just about finding your style. Number 5 is selling the outcome. Now, this sounds simple, and the old phrase is sell the whole, not the drill. Too many people try to focus on their features of their service. But you're not selling a service, you're selling an outcome, right? And you don't want to be too cheesy with this, but you do need to create a feeling around the product you're selling. And you've got to refer back here to understanding your customer, because they do have pain points that they need satisfying, like whether that's just the quality of the leads is dreadful, or whether their website just can't convert, or whether they've spoken to loads of agencies and they're all trying to charge them 5k for a site, and all these things that are bothering them. You are trying to solve a problem in their life. They're not here to buy ad management and a landing page. They're here to buy qualified leads, and they need 10 of them a month. Okay, so you need to work on selling the outcome that your product is going to deliver, as opposed to the inputs and the stuff that you're doing for them. So when you're pitching somebody, don't go and say, hey, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this, and this. They might need to know that detail, but tell them, hey, here's what we're going to deliver. Here's the expected results. That's what you want to be selling. Sounds simple, but a lot of people don't do it. Okay, point 6, we're halfway through now, is utilizing leverage. Now, leverage is hands down the easiest way to go from, I've put here 1 to 10, because it's not the easiest way to go from 0 to 1, because you need clients, you need, in order to utilize leverage, you need clients, you need case studies. But to get from 1 to 10, leverage. So what leverage does is effectively getting a client under your belt, and you work for free. You might need to offer, it's probably the hardest thing to do is to get that first client. It might be a big name on your website. It might be a client case study, and you can utilize that. Hey John, I can walk you through exactly how we did X amount for this company, or how you can show them a website you've redesigned for a similar brand, right? Leverage is going to help you get from client 1 to client 10. So focus first on getting that first really great case study. That is the most important thing. Once you've got that, you can then leverage that to get more and more case studies and more clients down the line. 7, have belief. You have to have belief in what you are selling. If you don't believe in what you're selling, you're going to have no success or no chance. Well, I'll put here actually in better words. If you don't believe in what you're selling, then you have no chance of convincing your prospects to believe in it either. You yourself have to believe in it. I see way too many people doing 1,000 cold calls before they've even really got any good at what they are promising to deliver. Right? If you're doing ad management, go and find some clients you can work for free, and go and get good at ad management first, and build those skill sets out into yourself to the point where you believe if a client gives you an opportunity, you're going to smash it out of the park. I remember in the early days, when I was talking to a prospect, I was so confident. I'd done it for a bunch of other companies. I knew that I'd smash it out of the park. So I had this huge belief in myself, and that belief is infectious, and they feed off of it. Okay, they're ambitious people too. They feed off it from you. So have belief in what you are selling to these guys. Number 8 is relentlessness. Now, I've got a friend who owns another agency, and he's much more successful than me. And whenever I say I'm struggling with sales, or I talk about the month and how I've struggled to close deals, and he says, just be relentless. Okay, and this kind of comes into the connection of the book called Go for No, which is by a guy called Richard Fenton, and it talks about yes is the destination, no is how you get there. Now, the goal here is to not necessarily try and get everyone to say no, but it's when you're looking through your sales pipeline, it's to have as little non-closed deals as possible. When you look at your pipeline, you should have open and you should have closed. And then later on in this course section, there'll be information about how to build a sales pipeline out for yourself. But you should have a closed and you should have open. And the goal with sales is to get as many closed leads as possible. That means that person's either said yes or they said no, and it will take you a certain number of no's to get to the yes. That is the premise of Go for No. So you need to be relentless in getting people over the line, following up relentlessly with them to get that response in an authentic way. It's nothing wrong with asking somebody, hey, I know we've spoken before and I just haven't heard back from you. It's absolutely fine if it's a no for now, but could you just let me know where you're at? Like things like that. Nobody minds, and a lot of people, if they feel like they can, they will try and avoid giving you an answer. It's always best to get a no than it is to get a maybe. Number 9 is leveraging the 5 levels of market sophistication. Now, there is a section on this later on in the course where I go into more detail about this, but this is essentially understanding not every lead is treated equally. Okay, we've got 5 levels. We've got level 5 through to level 1. Now, level 1 is essentially ready to buy. That is when you are leveraging case studies, you're doing follow-up calls, you're getting them on demos, and you're trying to close them. And level 5 is where they're unaware they even have a problem. That is where we educate that lead through content and through lead magnets and through videos and through newsletters and stuff like that. And eventually your sales process and your marketing process, they're all kind of the same thing, should be moving leads through this pipeline. So you might have it might be a 10 steps download, or it might be a case study VSL they can watch. This one might, when they're here, they're kind of problem and solution aware. So they're, let's say you do web design, they're aware that they need a new website, and they're aware that there's agencies out there that will do it for them. Now it's a case of like talking about your solution. So it's talking about case studies. It's product, doing demos of the product and stuff like this. So your marketing has to, and your sales tactics has to change depending on where the user is at. And the first way to understand that when you speak to somebody is ask them where they're at, where they're at in their business, what problems are they facing. And then it's up to you as a salesperson to then move them gradually through, and you build rapport throughout the whole process of you doing so. And there is a whole video all about this later on in this course. Number 10 is sales processes, and you want to build out sales processes that make your life easier and not harder. And what I mean by that is a lot of people trying to overcomplicate their sales processes. Now, I had the best success using a Google spreadsheet and having a few drop downs throughout that spreadsheet, depending on what stage they're at, or like where they're whether I pitched or not, and the warmth of that lead and the readiness to buy and things like this. That's what I had the most success with. But you can utilize CRM systems or anything. It doesn't really matter. It has to make your life easier. And I think the most important thing is be able to track open and closed leads, like we discussed. Just an easy way for you to glance over your sales pipeline and see who is closed and who is not. Monitor your close rates. It's really important that you know how many of the leads that you're speaking to are closing, so you can track that over time. Number 3 is to keep track of your leads that you need to re-engage, kind of the same as this. So if that lead is open and needs re-engaging, you have an easy way of seeing that and being able to refer back to it in the future. And number 4, have an easy way to engage old leads. So whether that's setting them up in a CRM system like Go High Level, which you could get a 30-day trial for down below, by the way, if you want to try out Go High Level as a CRM platform. Whether that's through Go High Level and you can just click and SMS them, whether that's through Business WhatsApp, whether that's through, just find an easy way to be able to re-engage old leads. And then we've got two main processes. Now, depending on what industry you're in, you will more than likely fall into one of these two kind of sales process categories. The first one is a one-call close. Now, this is my recommendation if you have services that are easy to explain and also fall under $500 per month in recurring revenue. So web design, CRM or SaaS, affordable lead gen, and more transactional products. So let's say you're selling booked appointments or qualified leads. You don't necessarily need a whole presentation to explain that to them. That can be explained in a phone call, and by the end of that 30-minute phone call, you can have that lead having paid and signed up and onboarded. Simple as that, and we're going to talk about more about that later. Number 2 is a 2-call close, which is for anything between, I would say, $500 and $1,000, and this is typically a intro call, a video demo call, and then usually you would close them on that demo, or you would at least follow up with them to close. I put step 1 intro call. I've missed step 2, but the step 1 intro call will be 15 to 30 minutes, and that's where you qualify the leads, you build rapport, you get to know them, and you're pitching them on that video call. And on that video call might be 30 minutes to an hour. You pitch a product, you walk them through some examples, case studies, and by the end of that product, you've taken payment and you've closed that deal. So this works for things like high-end web design, or high-end lead generation, like high-volume lead generation, or ad management, or a design, or anything visual which requires you to show that lead how it works and walk them through the process is probably best for this strategy. So those are my 2 best ones. Pick one that works for you, stick with it, test it for long enough to prove that it's working or not before you switch to something else. And number 11 is taking payments. Now, my advice here is to stop sending invoices unless, in certain circumstances, certain countries where you may need to. If your product is under $500, I would take payment over the phone. I had speaking to somebody the other day who was struggling to get clients to close. He was sending them invoices and they weren't paying. And I said, have you thought about just taking that payment over the phone there and then? And you just say, hey, John, they say yes, they're ready to go. You say, great. Do you have 5 minutes? We can get everything set up now. They say yes. Okay, cool. What's your long card number? I'm going to process that first month's deposit or retainer right now. Oftentimes, if they then push back from that, there's other issues that a client might have. They might have concerns or objections that you haven't handled yet during that call. So you might want to by asking for payment on the phone, often it might take that to get them to elaborate and open up about it. And I've said here, if you have big balls and or are good at sales, take payment over the phone. So if your product is under $500, you should try taking payments over the phone. Try it. You'd be surprised how often it works. If you have big balls and or are good at sales, still take payments over the phone if your product is over $500, I should say. So basically, like, I've taken payments of $2,000, $2,500, $3,000, $3,500, even like $5,000, $6,000 over the phone. Okay, there's no reason why you can't do it. And even if your product is a higher end product, if you're working with bigger companies, they might have sales teams and or account manager who might need to process your payment, and that's totally fine. But if you can't do that, use payment links, and you can set these up using Stripe. You just build a Stripe profile, you put your logo on it, you build out products, you generate payment link, and you send that payment link to the client. They can then securely pay it, and there's no avoiding it. And if you guys are in my school group, you'll see my course training where I talk about how to onboard clients. And what you can do is you can attach your onboarding after the payment has been made. So you can automatically redirect people after payment to go and fill in their onboarding form and stuff like that, and like kind of complete the onboarding. So it means it eliminates this risk of clients not paying effectively and you working for free. And the last one is sales follow-up, which we're going to briefly discuss. Now, number one is try and avoid the need for follow-up. And the way I try to avoid that, because I'm not the best at follow-up, it takes a lot of manual work. I always try to set the tone. So if I speak to a client, I usually try to get a yes or no on the phone. If I can't, I set a time in a diary and confirm that with them as to when I'm going to speak to them next. And usually what I will say is, between now and then, if you change your mind or you can't move forward, just send me a text and I'll go ahead and cancel that follow-up call. Does that sound fair? And they say yes. Okay. And also setting the tone at the start of the call. And the way you do that is by saying a really simple sentence, whether you're pitching on the first call or whether you're pitching on a demo call. You say, hey, at the end of the call, we'll go through pricing. And if is it okay if I just ask that you just say yes or no to me today if you can or can't move forward? And they usually say yes, that's fine. And then you ask questions like, does anyone else need to be on a demo call? Like, do you need to invite your business partner or anything like that? And just like give yourself the best chance of closing, and also give your prospects the best chance of being able to say no. The last thing you want is the prospect feeling like awkward to say no, you putting them into a corner where they feel like they just want to get off that call immediately. You want to make them feel comfortable, and you want to make them feel comfortable to say no. And ultimately, sales is about figuring out if the product's a good fit for them, as opposed to you just trying to blindly sell to them. If you refer back to what we talked about at the beginning about understanding your customer, you want to understand what they need and figure out whether your product is a good fit. And so I always say at the start of the call, on this call, we're going to figure out if our product is a good fit for you guys. If it's not a good fit for you guys, I will tell you, like, I don't want to bring you into the business if I don't think it's a good fit. And that gives some reassurance as well. Follow-up messages, like, this is brief, and there will be a separate section with like templates and stuff like that in this course, but a few rules. Always follow up when you say you're going to follow up. So if you say, I'll get back to you by Wednesday, I'll call you on Wednesday, you call them on Wednesday. Rather than saying something like, hey, I just wanted to check in on your text, you just send text simple as, when can I expect an update? And you do this usually on a schedule. So usually I would immediately follow up by WhatsApp or text, just summarizing the conversation. 24 hours later, if they haven't made payment or they haven't got back to me, I'll give them a follow-up text or call. If I haven't got that scheduled call, which ideally I would have, usually 3 days later, and then 7 days later, do the same thing. And I just say, hey, when can I expect an update? Give them permission to say no, hey. And then after 7 days, I usually send them a text or giving them permission to say no. Something along the lines of, hey, haven't heard from you. Just wanted to reach out. I'll assume, if I don't hear back from you, I'll assume it's a no. Thanks so much for your time. You're then giving them permission. Oftentimes when you send that text, they will reply saying, hey, sorry, like, I've just been caught up, like, I am interested. So like sending that text is sort of things like, hey, like, it's time, cutting the rope, pulling the plug, whatever. That can often trigger a response. Now, if they haven't replied within 7 days, I usually put them on a back burner, and then I try and follow up with them once every 1 to 2 weeks or twice a month maybe, until they tell me to go away. But I usually try and follow up with something. So if I have a good client case study I want to share with them, say, hey John, just sharing this case study with you. Or if I have a piece of content, I say, hey John, just sharing this with you, thought it might be useful. Giving them something of value and staying top of mind so that when they are ready, you can then work back to them. And obviously there's ways of automating this through newsletters and stuff like that. But if you want to take sales really seriously, you should try to manually do this. And I know it's difficult, and as you grow the business, it's more difficult. But if you can do it manually, it does make a huge, huge difference. Not just following up with them, trying to call them, just giving them value, something of value each time you connect. And that makes a big, big difference. So there's a lot to unpack there. If you guys want the... I will put this in my free school group, which you guys can join by clicking the link down below, and I'll put a PDF version of this in there so you can download this and use it as a resource if you guys want to. I'll put a PDF version in the free school community. So I'll leave a link down below for my free group and for my pay group. In my pay group, just for summary, you guys can get access to me 3 times a week, and also loads of other content. And otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. So thanks so much for watching that training. If you've got this far, it's incredible. I hope you've learned a thing or two. And if you do want to get access to the full extensive 5-week course, I will leave a link down below where you can join the paid school community as well. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching. As I mentioned before, I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe. It really helps the channel more than you can imagine. And otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video.